millionaire's sabotaged plane, saved by a city boy who returns with a shocking secret. The roar of the city was a distant buzz as the private jet sliced through the crisp autumn sky above New York City. But inside that sleek, shiny plane, Alexander Hale's domain, something deadly was unfolding. Suddenly, the engines coughed, sputtered, then a bone-shaking jolt threw everyone forward. Panic exploded. The wealthy faces twisted in disbelief. The pilot's voice cracked as the plane lurched, smoke curling ominously from the right wing. Below, Central Park lay like a green jewel against the city's gray sprawl. Sirens wailed instantly, piercing the uneasy silence that had fallen among the elite. The rich and powerful, used to controlling everything, were now helpless. Not a single person survived except one. Jake Carter, a kid from the city streets. No one knew why he was on that plane. No one expected that a kid with tumble-down shoes and sharp crowds began to gather. Phones lit up with frantic videos, flashing lights bouncing in the early dusk. Police and paramedics hurried through the chaos. But amid the confusion, Jake's eyes locked on someone unexpected in the wreck. Alexander Hale, groaning but alive, barely conscious. No one saw Jake pull Hale from the flames. Hands trembling, Jake dragged the millionaire out as bystanders gasped, whispering about the impossible. Who was this kid? How had he survived the crash that killed everyone else? Sabotage, Jake muttered under his breath, a lump rising in his throat. There was no doubt in his street-smart mind. This was no accident. Someone wanted that plane down, and someone wanted Alexander Hale dead. The rich man's glittering life, filled with secret deals and smoky backroom meetings, suddenly seemed darker, more dangerous than anyone imagined. As Jake caught his breath, the cool breeze carried faint whispers from the crowd. Conspiracy, cover-up, danger. The message was cryptic but clear. Someone close to Hale betrayed him, and the secret linked directly to Jake in ways he couldn't yet explain. The roar of helicopters mixed with sirens. Cameras zoomed in on Jake, the kid who crashed with the millionaire and walked out alive. His chest tightened. His hands shook as he realized the line between life and death had shifted forever. Tonight, the truth began to unravel. But what came next? Who was Jake really in this tangled mess? And what dark shadow did Alexander Hale hide behind his smile? The city watched. The game was only just beginning. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without warning. Just quickly check that red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming your way. And while you're at it, leave that powerful like. I love getting to know each incredible person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Jake stood frozen, the cold leather case heavy in his shaking hands. Around him, the crowd's murmur swelled, whispers of betrayal, silence broken only by flashing cameras and sirens. His chest tightened, every breath sharp and jagged. He looked up at Alex Hale. The millionaire's eyes were half closed, face pale but alive. Relief hit, then a spike of dread. Someone wanted him dead. Someone close enough to sabotage the plane. Suddenly, a deafening snap cut through the chaos. The ground trembled beneath their feet, like the city itself was cracking open. People screamed, stumbling back. Jake's heart pounded loud enough to drown out everything else. And then, darkness exploded across the sky. A second blast, larger, louder, ripped through the air. Glass shattered from nearby buildings. Smoke blossomed, thick and choking. Panic erupted. Police officers shouted orders, but Jake only saw one thing through the chaos. A figure dropping from the smoke, falling fast. It was Alex Hale. But this time, it wasn't a wounded millionaire clinging to life. It was something else. Something terrifying. His eyes snapped open wide. Not pale anymore. Burning, wild, unnatural. His mouth twisted into a grin that didn't reach his cold gaze. The ambulance crew froze. Jake's hands trembled violently. "Alex?" he gasped. But the voice that answered him wasn't human. The crowd scattered, pushing back against an invisible force of dread rolling through the street. Hale laughed, a cruel, broken sound that echoed like a nightmare. His skin rippled, shivered. In a heartbeat, it shifted. Not a person at all, but something else. Something that had worn Alex Hale's skin like a costume. A creature, twisted and dark, stepped forward, tall and looming, eyes glowing red in the dimming light. Its jaws snapped open, revealing sharp teeth, dripping with something black as oil. People screamed, scrambling for cover. Phones dropped. The city's roar fell away, replaced by a heavy, unnatural silence. Jake stumbled, the leather case falling from his fingers. His mouth went dry. His mind screamed, "Run!" But his body was frozen. This wasn't about sabotage anymore. This was something fiendish, something no street kid could fight. The creature, Alex or not, turned slowly, scanning the crowd, then locking eyes with Jake. A voice echoes inside Jake's head, low, mocking, and chilling enough to freeze his blood. "You were never just surviving, kid. You were chosen." Jake's breath hitched. His heart slammed against his ribs like a war drum. He didn't understand how, didn't want to believe it. But the secret sealed in that leather case pulsed with unseen power. The flash drive, the symbols, they were just clues to a murder plot. They were the key to something darker, deeper. Chosen. For what? Jake whispered to no one. The thing grinned, and the city gasped. Behind the creature's terrifying mask, a faint flicker of Alex Hale's real eyes shone. Not weak, not broken, but complicit. The millionaire was never the victim. He was the puppet master, the architect of the darkness. And Jake was the thread that tied them both to this nightmare. Sirens blared again. Crowds scattered like leaves in a storm. But Jake knew one truth now. The crash wasn't the end. It was just the opening move in a game he had no idea how to play. A game where nothing was real and everyone was a lie. And the biggest lie? Jake himself. Because somewhere inside him, something had woken too. Something that wasn't human either. The city watched, breath caught in panic. Who was Jake really? What had he survived? And what was waiting inside him in the cold shadows of Hale's world? The game was only just beginning. Jake barely breathed. The creature with red eyes, Alex Hale's twisted mask, watched him, cold and cruel. Then the world shook again, deeper this time. A sudden crack ripped through the air, a sound like breaking bones and twisted metal smashing together. The street beneath them split open. People screamed, stumbling back. Jake's legs buckled, but he caught himself against a lamppost. The creature snarled, stepping forward, but the ground trembled too violently to hold. Then, with a sound like ripping fabric, the air around Jake seemed to tear open. He blinked, gasped, for what he saw. Behind the creature, a figure stepped out. Not human, but not as monstrous. It was a girl, pale as moonlight, with hair falling like liquid silver. Her eyes glowed sharp blue, piercing straight through the smoky chaos. "Stop," she said, her voice calm, but cutting through the crowd, louder than any siren. The creature froze, head whipping around like it didn't expect her. Jake's heart slammed into his throat. The girl looked straight at him. "Jake Carter," she said. His name sounded like a secret keyword, spoken with weight. "I know who you are," she added, "and what you carry inside." Before Jake could speak, the crowd gasped again. Someone was pushing through the chaos. A man in a suit, face pale and eyes wild. He yanked the silver-haired girl aside. "Stop," he shouted. "This isn't just sabotage. This," he swallowed hard, "this is apocalypse." Jake's head spun. The man stared hard at the creature wearing Alex's face. "They're not what you think," he said. "Alex Hale died years ago." The crowd went silent, jaws dropping. Jake looked from the man to the creature, and back to the girl. "What?" Jake stammered. The silver-haired girl clenched her fists. "Alex Hale was never real. The millionaire you saved, that monster just took his place. And the real Alex?" Jake's voice cracked. "Gone, dead, replaced, and you!" Her eyes locked on him, sharp and relentless. "You're the link, the last fragment of a bloodline no one knew survived." Jake felt his knees weaken. "Why me?" His voice was a harsh whisper. The man in the suit took a step closer, shaking his head. "Because you're not who you think you are. We kept it hidden, even from you. But you carry the same darkness that consumed Hale. And it's awake now." Jake looked down at his hands, trembling violently. The leather case, the symbols, the flash drive. They weren't just clues. They weren't just secrets. They were his inheritance. Suddenly, the silver-haired girl pulled something from her coat, a slender, gleaming blade humming with cold energy. She stepped between Jake and the creature. "This ends now, or everything you believe will burn." The creature's red eyes flared brighter. It hissed, stepping forward. And Jake did the only thing he could. He grabbed the leather case, held it close. Then the creature's skin rippled again, shifting grotesquely. But before it could lunge, the ground behind Jake exploded in a wave of ice and fire. The silver-haired girl shouted, her voice rising like a storm. "Run, Jake! There's no time!" Jake spun around, heart pounding, just as the city streets blazed with unnatural light. The truth was fracturing fast. The man he saved was never the man he thought he was. And the boy in the leather case was something entirely new. As sirens screamed and the crowd scattered, Jake realized one terrible thing. Nothing was real. Everything was broken. And in the shards, the biggest secret yet was waiting. Who was Jake really? And what nightmare had he been born from? The game? It had only just begun. Jake barely registered the silver-haired girl's shout over the chaos. The city was burning. Streets cracked, lights flickering, people screaming and scattering like frightened animals. His breath hitched, chest tight, hands still clutching the old leather case, as if it held his last anchor to sanity. But then, everything stopped. Not the noise, not the chaos. Just him. The creature in Alex Hale's skin moved slowly toward Jake, eyes blazing hotter, jaws parted like a predator's. Then, without warning, the monster's face split apart. But it wasn't a tear of flesh or a mask peeling off. It was a mirror, a slick, black, oily mirror reflecting everything Jake hated and everything he feared. The crowd gasped, frozen in place. Jake's knees buckled as blood ran cold through his veins. Because inside that black mirror, staring back at him, wasn't the creature. It wasn't Alex Hale. It was Jake. His own face, confused, trembling, broken. His hands dropped the leather case, fingers slick with sweat. Time seemed to slow, the air thick like syrup. The silver-haired girl stepped forward, eyes flashing. "Jake, look!" she demanded, voice sharp but urgent. He wiped sweaty palms on his jeans, eyes locked on the cracks spreading across the mirror face. The reflection shifted. Not just a reflection. It was moving, changing. Inside the mirror, Jake saw flashes. Himself, but younger, scared, running through city streets. Then himself, older, standing over a dark, twisted version of Alex Hale, holding that same leather case. Images blurred. Voices whispered, tangled and broken. Jake's heart slammed harder. No, this can't be. The crowd scrambled, talking fast, panic rising again. But Jake was deaf to it. The man in the suit stepped forward, voice low and gravelly. "We never told you the truth, Jake. You didn't crash with Alex Hale." Jake shook his head, voice cracking. "What are you talking about? I saved him." The man held up a hand. "No, you created him." The silver-haired girl's blade hummed faintly in her grip. "The Alex you know," she said slowly, "is a fragment of you, a darker self twisted from your past. He's your shadow made real." Jake stumbled backwards, chest raw with pain. "But how? Why?" The ground trembled again. The creature's mirror face shattered, shards falling like falling stars. Only they didn't hit the ground. They floated, hovered in the air, glinting sharp and cold. And then one shard plunged into Jake's chest like ice, sharp, burning. He screamed, a ragged, broken sound, grabbing at his shirt. His vision blurred. And then he saw it. Not flashes, not reflections. Memories. Raw, bleeding memories he didn't remember ever having. A mother's voice, whispering impossible things. A lab. Machines humming. A boy hooked up to wires. Scientists in masks, watching. Tissue conversion, one voice said, coldly. "Test subject 12, said another, harder. Jake collapsed, gasping, tears stinging his eyes. The crowd was shouting now, questions and fear mixing with horror. The man in the suit crouched near him, voice almost gentle. "You weren't born. You were made." Jake looked up, voice raw and desperate. "Made? What do you mean?" The silver-haired girl's eyes softened for a moment. "You're not just the last fragment of some bloodline. You're the original source. A key. And the nightmare, Alex, you created to keep yourself safe, to hide the truth." Jake's throat tightened. "What truth?" Lightning cracked through the sky above them, splitting the city's dark canopy. The man said nothing, but the look in his eyes said it all. Jake was never the survivor. He was the experiment, the weapon, and worse. The moment he understood that, something cold and fierce woke deep inside him. A power, not his own. And it wasn't alone. The game wasn't beginning anymore. It was rewriting itself. And Jake wasn't the pawn. He was the board. His chest tightening, hands trembling. Jake stared at the chaos around him, at the monster that wore his face, at the silver-haired girl ready to fight, at the man who knew all the lies. And he whispered, "What else don't I know?" The city held its breath, because the truth, it was far darker, far bigger, and whatever came next, it would shatter everything he thought he was. The game? Oh no, it had just become a war. Jake's voice cracked in the heavy air. "What else don't I know?" The silver-haired girl and the suited man exchanged a glance sharp enough to cut glass. Around them, the wrecked street held its breath. And then, without warning, the ground beneath them trembled again, louder, deeper, like the city's bones were splitting wide open. Jake stumbled backward, heart trying to leap out of his chest. But the tremor wasn't the worst thing. A piercing scream stabbed the night. Every eye shot to the sky. Where the smoke had been thick, swirling like ink, a jagged rift tore open. Light blasted out, white, unnatural, searing, blinding. People screamed, covering their faces. Then the impossible happened. A figure dropped from the rupture, not like before. No monster, no creature, no Alex mask. It was Jake, only younger, frantic, wild-eyed, and bleeding. He hit the pavement hard, cracking the street beneath him. The crowd froze. Shock slapped every face. Jake's own breath hissed out. The younger Jake scrambled up, clutching his side where blood blossomed bright. The older Jake stared, frozen, every muscle straining. I was... What? He gasped. You, the younger Jake spat, voice raw. You're a lie. Silence crashed like a thunderclap. The silver-haired girl's hand tightened on the blade. The suited man's eyes went wide, haunted. You don't remember, the younger Jake snarled, because you erased me. Old Jake's chest burned. His hands shook so hard, the leather case slipped again to the ground. The younger Jake's gaze burned holes through him. I was the real you. Before your making, before the crash, before the nightmare child you became. The street fell eerily quiet, but the tension thrummed like electricity. Then the younger Jake laughed, a bitter, broken sound that echoed off shattered windows. I was the one who tried to stop it, to stop this horror you're swallowing. My horror? Older Jake's voice shook. Your weapon, your shadow, the monster you birthed to bury me. You're insane, older Jake whispered, backing away. No, I'm the truth you can't face. The crowd gasped again, phones raised, capturing this impossible scene. And then the younger Jake did the unthinkable. He reached into his chest, pulled free something small, slick and twisted, like black glass soaked in crimson. Old Jake's hands clenched, heart hammering numb. That implant, younger Jake said, eyes blazing. The thing that changed you, that split your soul. I'm not like this, older Jake stuttered, panic rising. You are. This thing, the younger pulled it higher, blood dripping, made you a weapon, a puppet, a killer without memory. Then, a sudden crack, the black shard shattered in a flash. Bright light flooded both Jakes. The crowd screamed, stumbling back. When the light faded, there was only one Jake. Or rather, no Jake at all. Just cold, glassy eyes staring back from a hollow face. The silver-haired girl gasped, stepping forward. It wasn't just a shadow, she whispered. The man in the suit fell to his knees, voice breaking. You're not Jake Carter. Shock slammed the scene like a freight train. The crowd parted as the creature, the mask of Alex, stepped forward. But this time, its eyes weren't red. They were cold, empty, soulless. It smiled. "Greetings, city boy," it hissed, voice layered, alien. Jake was never real. Not survivor, not weapon. He was the distraction. The seed for what I am now. The air turned sharp, thin, impossible to breathe. The silver-haired girl raised her blade, trembling. The crowd stared, spellbound and horrified. Older Jake's chest tightened beyond pain. The name Jake Carter? A lie, a story, a trap. And somewhere deep inside, the truth wasn't about surviving. It was about being created to fail. But fail had never been the plan. Because the monster smiling in his place was awake, and it was hungry. The game, it had just flipped. The war had started again. But this time, Jake wasn't even in the fight. Or was he? The city held its breath. Because now, everything was a lie. And the truth would kill them all. The creature's cold smile stretched wider. Empty eyes drilling into the crowd like a blade. The silver-haired girl gripped her blade tighter, trembling. The man in the suit stayed rooted, face pale, but eyes burning with dark knowledge. Jake's chest tightened so fast it felt like his ribs might crack. The name he'd held on to, his identity, was slipping through his fingers like smoke. Then, something snapped. A scream, sharp, sudden, cut through the silence. The crowd turned as a fierce wind whipped through the street, carrying a chill that bit deep into skin. The black mirror creature faltered, tilting its head like hearing a ghost. Jake, frozen, barely saw it. Behind him, the silver-haired girl gasped. "Look!" she cried. From the rubble behind the crowd, a figure burst through the smoke. Not young Jake, not older Jake. Something else. It was Alexander Hale. But Hale wasn't pale or weak. His eyes blazed gold. His hands glowed with flickering light, like embers about to catch fire. He strode forward, calm, powerful. The city's noise dimmed to a dull roar in the face of his presence. The creature hissed, no longer masked by Alex's face, revealing a twisted form underneath. It growled, baring those oily teeth. But Hale didn't cower. He raised his hand, and instantly, the creature recoiled like burned flesh. "No," Hale said, voice low, shaking the very air around them. "You're not meant to be." The crowd blinked, confused, stunned. Jake's heart hammered wildly. The silver-haired girl's blade shimmered, but she didn't move. The man in the suit whispered, This shouldn't be possible." Hale turned toward Jake, eyes softening. "It's you," Hale said. "You never should have been creating the monster. You were supposed to be the one destroyed." Jake's breath hitched. What do you mean?" Hale's face twisted with pain. "Because the truth is, none of this was real." A blinding flash burst from Hale's chest, a heart of pure light shattering the dark. And everything around them rippled. The crowd screamed as the streets warped, buildings bending like paper. Jake's legs gave way. He sank to his knees. None of you exist, Hale said. His voice cracked open, revealing layers beneath, echoes, data strings unraveling. Jake's world shattered. Everyone here was a construct, a simulation. The man in the suit vanished in a blink. The silver-haired girl blinked. Then she was gone too. It was just Jake and Hale, alone in a vast, empty darkness. "No," Jake whispered. "This can't be." Hale smiled sadly. "You're not the survivor, not the weapon. You're a test, a program, designed to face yourself." What am I then?" Jake's voice trembled, desperate. Hale stepped closer. "You're a virus, one meant to kill the system from inside." Jake's mind spun, heart pounding, chest caving. The leather case, his memories, his pain, they were code, lies. All his fights, fears, betrayals, nothing but glitches in a broken world. And then the darkness behind Hale cracked like shattered glass, revealing a vast control room filled with screens. Each screen showed cityscapes, bodies, endless versions of Jake and the creature, and faces with no names. Hale's voice dropped to a whisper, trembling. "This world was never real. We are all simulations inside a dying mind. And your struggle? It's the mind trying to wake." The silence that followed was suffocating. Jake's hands trembled, reaching out for something solid. But there was nothing. His chest crushed under a weight heavier than fear. "Then who am I?" he gasped. Hale smiled once more. "You're the reason it's still breathing. The city, this life, was just the illusion before the final awakening." Jake's breath hitched, tears burning his eyes. Because now, the game wasn't just a war, it was a countdown. And the player was him. But the question, would he survive the reset? Jake's breath hitched, tears burning his eyes. The world around him, empty, endless, pressed in, cold and silent. The man they called Hale smiled again. The player, the virus, the key. Jake's fingers twitched, desperate to grasp something real. "Then, what do I do?" "Wait," Hale whispered, voice a razor through the void. "The reset hasn't started. Not yet." Before Jake could ask more, the darkness shivered like a bad dream catching fire. And then, suddenly, a sharp, searing pain ripped through Jake's chest. He gasped, clutching his heart as if it was tearing apart. His vision blurred. The world folded over itself. Then he heard it. A voice. Soft, almost tender. "Jake." He blinked. The vast, empty black cracked open like glass. Colors exploded. Shapes spun wildly. And when the dust settled, Jake was somewhere else. A tiny, new world. Dim room, lit by a single flickering bulb. He lay on a cold metal table. His chest pounded. His head throbbed. He tried to move, but thick cables bound his wrists and ankles. A mirror rested nearby. Jake's eyes darted to it. But the face staring back, it wasn't his, it was a woman's. Wide eyes, pale skin, fear etched deep into every line. His breath hitched. Who is this? A figure appeared in the doorway. No Hale, no silver-haired girl, no man in a suit. Just a man in a white coat, eyes cold and impassive. "This is the truth," the man said, stepping closer. Jake's heart hammered loud. "What truth?" The man nodded toward the mirror. "Your real body. Jake Carter is dead. You have been inside this simulation. But the person trapped here, she's the original." The woman in the mirror whispered, "Please, help me." Jake's hands trembled, the weight of the revelation crashing down like a freight train. "Wait," he whispered, voice breaking. "I'm her? Not me?" The man shook his head slowly, voice low and ruthless. "You're a ghost in her mind. An echo of survival she created to escape." Jake's world tilted, his chest tight as air fled his lungs. "Why?" he gasped. "Why am I this? Why did she make me?" The woman in the mirror's eyes glistened hot with unshed tears. "Because the nightmare came for us both." Suddenly, alarms blared, shattering silence. The room trembled. Red lights flashed. Danger. Warning. The man's face twisted, panic sparking behind the clinical mask. "They found us!" Jake struggled against the cables, voice frantic. "Who? What's happening?" The man didn't answer. Instead, the door behind him exploded inward. A swarm of figures flooded the room, faces distorted, eyes glowing faintly. The woman in the mirror screamed. "Run!" she cried. "Don't let them take me!" Jake felt a cold hand brush his cheek, a touch like ice. His body jolted, mind fracturing. "Remember," a voice echoed in his head. "You are not their prisoner. You are the war." Lights flickered, shadows danced. Jake's chest throbbed, his mind screamed. Broken images flashing. A child trapped in a glass box, a woman crying. A man laughing, cold, cruel. Then, everything shattered. Jake awoke gasping, drenched in sweat. He wasn't alone. The silver-haired girl knelt beside him, eyes wide, filled with urgent fear. "You're back," she whispered. Jake's hands fell to his knees, trembling. "What happened?" She bit her lip, voice tight. "You weren't Jake at all. You were her dream. But now, she's awake." Jake blinked, heart pounding wildly. "Her? Who?" The girl's gaze sharpened. "Alex Hale, the one you saved. The money, the monster. It was a memory she buried deep. You see, Jake, you aren't the virus trying to kill the system. You're the infection inside her, the part she tried to erase." Shock slammed Jake's chest. His name, his past, the crash, the monster. It was all a lie built to hide one brutal fact. The real war had never been out there. It was inside her mind. And Jake? He was the ghost haunting her. The city, the game, they were her cage. and she was finally breaking free. The silver-haired girl's voice trembled. We have to find her before she wakes completely, before she decides what to do with what's left of us all. Jake's chest tightened again, the weight of new truth crushing him. Then, who am I? The girl's eyes held only one answer: the key to her salvation, or her destruction. The world held its breath, because the real nightmare had only just begun. Jake's chest tightened like a fist squeezing too hard. The silver-haired girl's words hung heavy between them. The key to her salvation, or her destruction. His hands shook, fingers fumbling with the leather case, as if it might crack open and spill everything he needed to breathe. Around them, the broken city waited, silent, watching. The air felt thick, like before a storm, ready to break. But Jake didn't hear thunder, just the pounding of his heart, loud enough to drown out the world. Then, without warning, the silence shattered. From the shadows near the cracked streetlights, a voice, low and ragged, cut through the tension. Enough! Jake whipped around, the case falling to his knees. A man stepped forward, tall, dressed all in black. Face hidden behind a mask that looked scratched and worn. But those eyes, God, those eyes burned with something fierce, angry, lost. Who? Jake gasped. Who are you? The man's laugh was a broken thing, dry and cold. The ghost you forgot, the one you left behind. A cold shiver shot down Jake's spine. The crowd around them tensed. Murmurs rose like a tide. Wait, what? Another hymn? Someone whispered. Jesus, what is this? Jake felt something stab at his ribs, a twisted knot unraveling in his gut. Ghost? Left behind? He repeated, voice cracking. The man took a step closer, and suddenly, he pulled off the mask. Jake's mouth went dry. The face beneath it wasn't new. It was his, but older, scarred, broken in ways Jake didn't know could happen to skin. That's right, the man said, voice heavy with a sharp kind of pain. You're not just an echo. You're a copy, and I am the original. Silence dropped like a hammer. Jake's breath hitched. His mind reeled. Original? Copy? You're me? The man nodded slowly, eyes dark pools of regret and fury. I'm the one who lived through the hell you pretend didn't happen. The one you buried so deep you made a whole world just to hide from it. Jake shook his head, backing up until the wall scraped his back. Stop. This isn't real. You're lying. I'm not lying, the man growled, the sound rising like a storm breaking loose. You erased me, left me to rot while you built a lie called Jake Carter to survive. Jake's chest seized. Pain exploded behind his ribs like glass shattering. Why? His voice broke. Why would I do that? The man stepped closer, too close. His eyes flickered like fires trapped in ice. Because you're afraid. Afraid of what we became. The monster you created and tried to forget. But he remembers. Jake's throat closed. The leather case felt unbearably heavy in his hands. The silver-haired girl finally spoke, voice tight, trembling. "This changes everything." Before Jake could respond, the man stretched out a hand. A pulse of light erupted from his palm, a sharp, burning flare that hit the leather case. Jake screamed as the case burst open. Inside, not secrets, not codes, not clues, but a tiny, writhing creature, black and slick, no bigger than a spider. With too many legs and eyes that shimmered red like embers, it crawled out, slithering onto the ground, alive, real, horrifying. The crowd gasped, stumbling back in terror. Jake barely caught his breath, staring at the creature, and then at the man who was him. "You made this," the man spat. "The parasite inside your mind, the thing feeding on her fears." Jake's knees buckled. "No," he whispered, shaking his head. A fresh tremor rippled through the city, buildings cracking, as if the world itself was tearing apart. The black creature hissed and grew, its body stretching, limbs multiplying, until it towered over them all. Eyes glowing fiery bright, jaws snapping with a sound like glass breaking. "It's not the war inside you," the man said, voice steel cold. "It's the war outside. The creature you've been running from is inside all of us." Jake's chest seized, pain doubling like a storm crushing down. The silver-haired girl grabbed his arm, voice urgent but soft. "We have to stop it, together." Jake looked between the man, his original self, and her, but all he could see was the black creature looming larger, the city screaming beneath their feet. And then the man turned to Jake, eyes piercing. "Remember this, you are not what you think. You are not the hero. You are the origin." The air snapped cold. The city held its breath, and Jake, trembling, broken, realized with a crushing horror, the entire nightmare had just begun, because the line between monster and man, it never existed. Not for him, not ever. And the question, who was really trapped inside whom? The game, it wasn't just a war anymore. It was a reshaping. And Jake? He wasn't the player. He was the spark, the trigger, the end. And in that shattering moment, he knew one thing for certain. Nothing, not a single thing, was what it seemed. The city and his soul were on fire, and no one was coming to save him. Jake's chest tightened like a fist crushing his ribs. The city burned around him, glass crunching beneath frantic feet, smoke twisting in choking ribbons. The black creature towered, eyes burning with a fire that promised death. The man in the suit, his own face but older, colder, stood beside him, glaring like a ghost demanding revenge. The silver-haired woman gripped her blade, face pale but fierce. Then everything stopped. Dead silence sliced through the chaos like a blade. Jake blinked, heart hammering, because the creature's smile faded. The air grew thick, heavy, impossible to breathe. A sharp crack split the sky. All heads snapped upward. The smoky rift tore wider above them. A furious wind pulsed out, knocking people off their feet. Then, an explosion of white light. The crowd screamed, shielding their eyes. Jake gasped and stumbled, clutching his chest. But it wasn't the light that broke him. It was the voice, soft, whispered from the blast. Jake. He froze. The voice was hers, the woman from the mirror, the one who shouldn't exist here. Her shape emerged, not from above, but from inside the rift itself. She wasn't just a figure. She was a living, breathing storm, glowing with silver-blue fire that hurt to look at. She stepped into the ruined street, calm, steady, impossible. Jake staggered back, chest tight, eyes wide. "She's real," the silver-haired girl murmured, "not in dreams or code." The older Jake's face twisted in disbelief. The creature snarled, snapping jaws. But then the unthinkable happened. The woman reached out. Her hand moved over the black creature's twisted form, and the darkness pulled back like a shadow burnt by flame. The creature's skin cracked, not just melting, but peeling away to reveal something else underneath. Old Jake gasped. The monster shrank, losing shape, twisting, screaming in silent agony. Then it shattered, not into shards, but into millions of fragments. Each piece floated, hovered, before flying apart, a mist of tiny lights swirling wildly. Jake's breath hitched. In that chaos, the silver-haired girl's blade glowed brighter. She looked at Jake. "We were wrong," she said, voice shaking. "It's not about the weapon or the virus." Jake blinked, heart stuttering. The woman in silver stepped closer, eyes locking on him. "Not even about you." Jake's throat went dry. The rift behind her pulsed. Then the ground beneath them cracked open. But this time, something new crawled out. Not the creature, not Jake, but a figure. Tall, searing with energy. Humanoid, but pure light. The figure's voice boomed, deep and cold. "I am the source." The crowd gasped, stumbling back. Jake's knees buckled. The man in the suit and the silver-haired girl stared in horror. "This," the figure said, "is creation's true face. The beginning and the end." The lightning figure turned slowly. Its gaze pierced Jake like a blade. "You do not hold the keys," it said. "You are the lie that was built to hide what I truly am." Shock slammed Jake's chest. "No," he gasped, voice cracking. "That's not possible." The figure smiled, if a being like that could smile. A terrible, distant thing. "You are a shadow in my design, a ghost constructed from fragments. Your memories, fabrications. Your pain, the system's fail-safe." The silver-haired girl shook her head, mouth open, but no sound came. Jake's hands curled into fists, nails digging into his palms, as cold sweat ran down his temple. "No," he whispered, barely believing his own voice. "I'm real." The figure stepped forward. The city trembled beneath its feet. You have been the system's experiment, the error they couldn't erase, but I am the true code. Before Jake could react, the leather case shattered again in his grip, glass and light bursting out. From inside, a pulse of energy exploded in waves, blasting Jake off his feet. He hit the cracked concrete hard, pain blazing through his side. As he lay there, the figure knelt beside him. Its hand hovered over his chest, not touching, but the heat radiated like a star. Your story is not yours to write. Then, just before the figure's voice faded, it whispered in a voice only Jake could hear, "I made you to save me." Jake's heart stopped. The world blurred and tumbled. The city, the crash, the monster, the lies, all shattered into a single question burning through his bones. Who am I really saving? And who is the nightmare that created everything he thought he knew? The streets held their breath. The game wasn't just flipped. It had been rewritten by a ghost he never saw coming. And the player was no one, had no name, had never been real. Jake's chest squeezed tight, every breath a knife in his lungs. The glowing figure, the source of all this chaos, stood above him, calm and cold. Its voice rolled like thunder, crushing the broken world around them. "You are the glitch, the fault in the code," it said. "But even glitches can spark change." Jake's fingers twitched. His heart hammered like a drum gone wild. He looked up at the light, at the endless void twisting behind it. And then he saw her, the woman from the mirror, the ghost trapped beyond the shattered simulation. She was real, more than real, alive in that broken place, calling him back. Pain blasted through Jake's chest, white-hot and raw, but it didn't stop him. "I'm not your mistake," he gasped. The figure paused, eyes like black holes, boring into his soul. "Maybe," it whispered, "but you're the only hope left." Jake pushed himself up, trembling, fighting the cold that clawed at his skin. The city around him shimmered, bending between realities, teetering on the edge of collapse. Behind him, the silver-haired girl stepped forward, her blade glowing steady in the darkness. "We can end this," she said, fierce, defiant. Jake swallowed hard, nodding. The older version of himself, scarred, broken, stood beside them now, no longer an enemy, but a reminder of survival. Together, they faced the source. The creature snarled, but before it could strike, a sudden flash burst from the leather case, open now, alive with strange light. The tiny creature inside writhed and shrank. The festival of fire and ice erupted around them as the source recoiled. "Light," Jake whispered, feeling it anchor him, steady and fierce. The darkness cracked wide. The woman's voice echoed, soft but powerful, through the void. "Jake, find me." And in that moment, the world snapped. Jake woke gasping, chest tight, sweat cold. You made it back, she breathed. His hands faltered on the leather case, now just a simple old thing, heavy with memories and lies. Jake's lips parted, voice raw but certain. We're not done. Outside, the city held its breath. The streets were still cracked, the night filled with distant sirens and whispers of what had been. But Jake knew this wasn't the end. It was a new beginning. The battlefield was inside. The war was only getting started, and the real question remained, burning in his chest like a living thing. Who is Jake, really? And who will control the story next? The game wasn't over. Far from it. The city watched, waiting for the next move. Now listen closely. You need to subscribe right now so you don't miss what's coming next. Because this story, it only gets wilder from here. Smash that like button right now. Every tap feeds the algorithm and keeps this channel alive. Only true fans know just how big a deal this is. Flood the comments below with your gut reactions, your wildest theories, everything you're feeling about how this ends. Your voice matters. It always does. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see the truth. Spread the word. The story's only just begun, and you don't want to miss a second. This is the moment to show your support. The game's on. The war's started. And you're right in the middle of it.